leverage the Biden brand. Joining us is Touro University Distinguished Professor Thane Rosenbaum. And let's bring in our special guest for the week. This is a former vice chair of New Jersey Federation of Republican Women, Melanie Collette. Thank you so much both for being here. This is wild, this testimony, and received no media coverage outside of, a few outlets that are been following this for some time. But let's get to this testimony here. During his closed-door appearance before the committee, Devin Archer said that the Hunter Biden, he put his father on speakerphone with his rogue overseas business associates more than 20 times to sell them on this Biden brand. Thane, I want to get to you first. This is absolutely influence peddling, but for whatever reason, it seems like we're still missing that smoking gun yet. Would you agree?
No, I think that is a smoking gun, John. The whole point of influence peddling is that somebody's being peddled, right? And the person who's being peddled doesn't have to be that involved. They're just being peddled. And that's exactly what you had here. I can get this vice president of the United States on the phone whenever I want. Let me show you. I'm sure they were talking about the weather. It's like watching one of those old Westerns when the marshal just shows you the gun. Yeah, he's just showing him the gun. Right. I don't think they actually need any conversations. Why would Joe Biden, who's a professional politician, put himself in a position where he would not have plausible deniability that this was a business deal? He's not going to talk about money on those calls. The very fact that those calls took place at any moment in time, it's clear that Joe Biden knew that his son was involved in business dealings. Now, did they have conversations about how much money Biden himself was supposed to receive or other family members? That's a separate thing, but I think this is damaging testimony that if introduced in a courtroom, again, the courtroom we have right now is dealing with one thing, old non-payment of taxes, right? We don't have any indictments yet, if it ever, about the failing to register as a foreign agent. So that's important. There isn't really a courtroom right now in which to bring these charges, but it would be interesting to investigate it further.
That's a great point. I want to bring in federal criminal defense attorney at Parkman and Parker, Jim Parkman. Thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you.
To Thane's point, we've seen the influence peddling. We have that. But the FARA charge is something that Hunter Biden could now face. That hasn't been ruled out, that the DOJ is still investigating that. But could President Joe Biden could he face FARA charges? Because if he's receiving money, is he not doing the same thing, and he's withholding aid to this country? Does that not fall under FARA?
Yes, and to me, the previous individual, I didn't catch his name. The previous individual was talking. He was dead on. He was dead on. About the weather and 20 calls, and you talk only about the weather, about the geography of the land. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. And then they talk about, whether or not he has access to he's the president. The president is the father. He's the son. Of course he has access to the president or vice president. Of course he has access to him all the time, anytime he wants it. So these calls, about 20 calls, and talking simply about, what's the weather over there? What's the geography? How's your land? Do you have any mountains? That's ridiculous. I mean, there's more to it than that, a lot more to it.
Melanie, the brand, that's what they're selling. What is Hunter Biden's skill set?
Exactly. What's Hunter Biden's brand? Clearly the brand is Vice President Biden at the time. That's the brand. That's what's being sold. And by the way, who calls their parent in the middle of a business meeting? Even if your parent calls you, what do? You text and say, hey, mom or dad, everything okay? Make sure it's not an emergency. But no one randomly calls their parent in the middle of a business meeting, and no one takes a call from a parent unless it's an emergency in the middle of a business meeting. None of it makes sense. And what really infuriates me about this entire thing is that they really think the American people are stupid, and we're not. We have common sense, and what they're saying makes no sense.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. They think the American people are stupid and they're buying all of this. Let's get to the line of questioning here from Congressman Jim Jordan to Archer over the interactions with Burisma executives. We have a call for here. Jordan asked, after dinner at the Four Seasons, did Zlochevsky or Vladimir ask Hunter Biden to make the phone calls? Archer says yes, though he was not party to that phone call. Jordan, he says, well, what was the request? Archer says the request was, well, think they were getting pressure and they requested Hunter, help them with that sort of pressure. Jordan, then the request says that the help was from the United States government to deal with the pressure that they were under from their prosecutor, and that the entailed the freezing of the assets at the London bank and other things that were going on in the Ukraine. Archer says correct. Jordan, he says, what did Hunter Biden do after he was given that request? Archer says, listen, I didn't hear the phone call, but he said he called his dad. So, I mean, is this not evidence right there to have an impeachment inquiry? I want to go back to Thane.
I think this is the smoking gun, the testimony that Democrats are dismissing as, you see, there's no mention that Biden was actually discussing business deals. Remember in The Godfather 2 with Michael Corleone when one of the mobsters says there was a lot of, he said, I never really had direct contact with Michael Corleone. He had a lot of buffers. Well, yeah. That's exactly right. A guy like Joe Biden is in that position. I'm not describing the Biden family as a crime family. I know others might. I'm simply saying that the evidence that we heard from the two whistleblowers several weeks ago and now from Devin Archer is pretty self-condemning, very, very powerful testimony that this was that they were told to stand down when it came to the Bidens, to not undertake the normal channels of investigation, and Hunter Biden's business partner knew what business they were in. It was overseas dealing in which they could leverage the Biden brand, and that every so often they could call up the vice president as a demonstration of their capacity to have access to that kind of power. I think that, if there's bank accounts offshore that have benefited Joe Biden, or he's been drawing from it to buy stuff, how is that not an impeachment inquiry? One last thing. Donald Trump did not get an impeachment inquiry. They forgot that. They just went straight to a House vote to move it to the Judiciary Committee. To me, the inquiry is just an inquiry. Shouldn't be afraid of it unless you're really afraid of it.
I 100% agree. And at this point, there's now so much mounting evidence. How could you not have a special investigator look into this? It just seems like they're continuing to go down this line of questioning, of trying to find more evidence, but I think they have enough now. I want to get to this, though. Devin Archer, he was told to purchase a burner phone by Hunter Biden. Jim, do you think President Biden had a burner phone? I mean, if they were thinking about all of the ways to cover this up, what is President Biden hiding that we don't know?
Well, that's a great question. Buying a burner phone, what we normally see that in is people that deal and sell and traffic in drugs. That's why they buy them, because you can't trace the phone call and you can't find any information about text messages. Now, whether or not the vice president had one, I don't think that's even relevant, because it looks like all the deals are going through Hunter and then on over to the father, if that's what the case is in this. So he doesn't need a burner phone. Hunter may need one, but, it looks like to me that what they're doing is simply Hunter putting up his father on phone calls over there so that they know that he has access to the vice president, and know the vice president can get on the line anytime Hunter says he wants him on there. Now, what's interesting to me, and I have not heard this from anybody on the panel, and I wish somebody would answer this question. Why is Hunter Biden even on the board of directors of this company?
Yeah. What value does he have? He has no skill set.
What value does he have? What information does he have? Where's he been in any energy company before?
Yeah.
That he would be of value to this company.
Yeah.
Other than.
It reeks of corruption, and they will get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
We have to leave it there. Jim Parkman, thank you so much. Thane Rosenbaum, appreciate you
Thank
coming on
you.
as well. Melanie Lee's going to stick around here.